Hey everybody, I'm your host Eric Mueller, and welcome back to the Eric Mueller Show, the podcast where we explore what makes any successful person's inner clock tick. Now I'm going to preface this episode with, I have a cold right now, so hopefully my voice is not super annoying. Hopefully it doesn't sound too nasally for you. But today I've got a special episode prepared where I'm going to take you through my experience of attending the first NFT-ticketed event in history, and man, was it a success. My wife and I met so many wonderful people at VeeCon, and the sense of community there was just remarkable. So if you might recall from my VeeCon, prep episode where I talked a little bit about it, I mentioned that there was this welcome party. So the convention was 3 days, 3.5 technically, but the welcome party was the kickoff. This was on Thursday, May 19th. Now I flew solo to this day. I drove up there myself. The wife sat that one out. But it was the massive Minnesota meetup. So there's this park called the Commons outside of US Bank Stadium. Totally beautiful day, outdoor concert with some DJs. There was ton of vendors, food, drinks, etc. I, however, was doing the 75 hard program, which a component of that is you can't drink alcohol for 75 days. So I wasn't able to drink, which that was fine. I was driving back that day anyway. But I thought it was just super cool to network, meet some of these other VFriend holder, people that are interested in the Web3 space. I actually received my first POAP. So this is a learning point here, a POAP, P-O-A-P. It's a proof of attendance protocol. So it's an NFT, and these are not really ones that you would find for sale. There's not really a whole lot of monetary value to them. It's mainly just like a badge of, hey, I was here. It's kind of just a fun collectible more so. But there was some people with a company called 1:37 p.m. So I'll tag that company in the show notes because they actually come up later in this episode. But 1:37 p.m. had some staff at the massive meetup. And I saw them, I recognize them. It's a GaryVee owned company now. And I approached them and they were like, hey, have you gotten a POAP yet? I was like, honestly, no. I know what it is. I know it's a proof of attendance protocol, but I didn't have one yet. So he walked me through, download the app, you get the code and you scan it, boom, got a POAP. Little collectible. No monetary value necessarily, but pretty fun. So at this welcome party too, a couple cool things that happened. So Gary was signing some empathy wine bottles. So a big piece with him is empathy. That's one of the characters in VFriends is the empathy elephant. And he was signing some wine bottles that people had bought previously. And I didn't have one. I was kind of late to this project, honestly. So I didn't have a wine bottle. But I did take some selfies at a distance with Gary. So we kind of walked up. I met some people there. And we walked up and we were just kind of taking selfies at a distance. It was kind of funny. But honestly, it served its purpose. I mean, you'll hear later on how I waited in line quite a while to get a selfie with Gary. So, I still didn't think it was good enough to get one at a distance, but yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I also met, this is kind of a really cool part. I met AJ Vaynerchuk, so Gary's brother. I met him outside of one of the components of the massive meetup was a business pitch contest for local companies, and there was some Minnesota entrepreneur, type organizations there. So that was really cool. But I met AJ Vaynerchuk and I was able to actually interview him and ask him the 3 core questions of the show here. Got it on video. Some cool people that I met helped take some video of it and send it to me. So I'm going to be posting that soon. But you might recall, so this show, 3 core questions. So really, I don't know if you've listened and followed to the show consistently, there's really 2 questions that I ask everybody. It's what's your definition of success? And then what is the single driving force that keeps your inner clock ticking towards success? So kind of a big announcement here. I'm bringing in another component to that, the 3 core questions now instead of 2, and it's exploring the success portfolio. So that's really, the success portfolio is really what I view this show will kind of transition into, really looking at that. So you might wonder, what is that? Well, an investment portfolio is the compilation of investments that lay the foundation for financial goals. So you have your stocks, you have your bonds, you have different type of, investments that make up your financial portfolio, and it pushes you to your financial goals. Now, I want to discover how people invest, kind of invest in quotes, invest in themselves. We're not really talking about money, but how they invest in themselves and build the foundation for their success. So I asked AJ, what were the 3 skills, traits, habits, mindsets, attributes, what have you, that make up your success portfolio? So that was really fun. I've got a couple other interview guests coming up where I asked them that question, where we kind of introduce this. But really, that's kind of a teaser of this show, the success portfolio. That's where we're going. So I'm super pumped to introduce that. Hopefully y'all find, value in that because I think it really should help know what you need to invest in yourself to get to where you want to be. So another piece at the Minnesota meetup, this is focusing on the Vcon app. So the app that you had that you needed to get into the convention, it was tied to your wallet, it had your NFT on it. So what you also could do with it that was super cool is you could connect with other people at the convention and get their contact information just by scanning the QR code that would pull up on their app. So I had an app pulled up, or I had the VeeCon app pulled up with my QR code for people to scan. So that pulls my contact information into their app, and then I would scan theirs to pull it into mine. So that was super fun. I mean, I was able to meet and connect with a lot of people and connect with them on social and message them. People are, honestly, I mean, you meet all sorts of people at things like this. And I'm really excited to go to more of these conventions in the future, especially, the VeeCon, but also different NFT conventions and Web3 conventions, because there's people that are, like in my position where they're working full time in a totally different industry, but they like this. They're passionate about it. And then there's some people that are literally making full-time money, kicking butt, doing this full time. They're showing me some of their NFTs they have and what projects they're working on, and they're like in some pretty big roles. It's like, that's insane. That's really impressive. And so I think it was really fun to connect with people like that. And I had a really good time at that massive meetup party. So I drove home from that. And then we get to really day one of the conference, which was May 20th. So this was on Friday. So I had my wife with me. That was awesome. I was able to get, as you might recall from the, pre-VeeCon episode, that we had a really nice gentleman that gifted us a ticket. So I was able to take Dana with me, my wife, and that was awesome. I was so pumped about that. So I should preface this, that when we were at the Minnesota meetup, I was at the Minnesota meetup, Gary had said and tweeted and wrote on the Discord, like, hey, people, the door for the convention will open tomorrow at 8 a.m., but I'd probably suggest getting there a little bit early, maybe like 7:30, maybe 7:15, just to make sure that the line can move smoothly, because they're going to be scanning these NFTs and didn't know if there was going to be, like any holdups to that process from a technological standpoint. So I decided, I was like, okay, babe, we should get there, probably like at 7:30 at the latest. Maybe let's shoot for 7 and we'll see what happens. So we ended up hitting the road from Rochester, Minnesota, heading north to Minneapolis. And we got there right around 7 o'clock, and doors open at 8. So we got there at 7 o'clock, and honestly, I was expecting there to be maybe 100 to 200 people in line. So this is a convention where there was 7,500 people that were going to be there. That was how many people had tickets. And so I was not expecting there to be that many people in line. We showed up, guys, at around 7:10 for the doors opening at 8, and there was a huge line. It was wrapping around the entire stadium, the entire US Bank Stadium. And so I was like, what the heck? And really a big motivator for me to want to get there early was there was some limited merch. And those of you that know me know that I'm pretty into that stuff, pretty into that limited type, apparel or different types of, collectible type things that are in limited quantity. That's kind of a big thing that Eric enjoys. But so we waited in line. We met some more cool people in line, which was sweet. And we were talking about, some different aspects of the VFriends project, some other NFT projects. And it was kind of funny. I could tell my wife was just like, I don't know what's going on here. Like I should have given her a crash course of some of the terminology that would be thrown around. But either way, she was just happy to be there with me. But so we finally the line starts to move. We finally get up to the point where we're going to scan our tickets. So thankfully, no problems there. Scanned the tickets easily, got in, and I just beelined it. I wanted to book it down to the lower level of the stadium where the merch would be. So there was some coffee. Coach, a handbag company, was putting on coffee and conversation on the top level. So I skipped the coffee. You guys know how much I love coffee, too, if you listen to the show. And I skipped that and ran straight down. I was like, babe, save me a seat. I'm going to go try to get this merch. I had my eyes on a sweatshirt that they were having, and I'll give a little more detail as far as what merch was there. And I got down there, and I was kind of connecting with some people down there, talking to them, and the line there was no real clear line as far as how to who's first in this line. It was just kind of like a mass of people. So well, this isn't very efficient. And they had mentioned that the merch was going to be open from 8 until the main stage started, I think around 9:20. So like an hour and 20 minutes to sell people merch. And then it would close while the main stage was active. And the main stage is just kind of the main center area of the stadium where they'd have speakers and concerts. And they wanted people to not have to, be waiting for merch. They wanted people to enjoy the convention. And so anyway, I was waiting there for the first 50, 60 minutes. So it's almost 9 o'clock. Still hadn't really moved a whole lot, but I was connecting, I was talking with people and passing the time and connecting on the app and talking about what they were involved in. And so that was fun. But it kind of came to a T with this, where everybody knew that they were not going to shut down this merch stand. There was no way, because people were literally in line for an hour, 20 minutes. It hadn't moved really at all. And there was limited quantities of these things. So there were 600 sweatshirts, 2,000 short sleeves, 2,000 long sleeves. And there were some other stickers and different things. But there were 7,500 people there. So my mind was like, I wanted a sweatshirt because there was only 200 of each of these 3 different styles. And those sweatshirts looked really sweet. They're also worth quite a bit on eBay now. I did get one, but had to wait for literally 4 hours, guys. I was waiting from 8 a.m. until about 11:45, so almost 4 hours. My wife is sitting watching the main stage events, and she actually met a dude there that asked if I would buy him some merch while I was in line, which I had no problem doing. I was able to pick him up a couple t-shirts that he wanted, a couple long sleeves more specifically, and he said he would pay me more than they were worth. And it was like, dude, just whatever you want to do is fine. He did give me a little bit more than I paid for him, which was super nice of him. But I was just happy to help him out because I value that. I think waiting for merch is worth it. You might think I'm crazy, but I think it was worth it. And it was a great memory. And one more piece on that, when we got up there, the 2 guys that I was waiting with, we actually, all 3 of us were looking to get a sweatshirt. And we were kind of debating between, do I want the black one? Do I want this cream colored one? Do I want this tie-dye one? And we weren't sure on the sizing either. We were all kind of roughly the same build and height. It was like, oh, do we do a medium, large, small? Like, what do we do here? And so we were asking people after they would buy it and they were walking away with their merch. We were like, hey, can we try that on quick? Are you able to let us try that on real quick to see if it works? And that actually, it kind of gave us a good idea, because then we were like, okay, we're a little more confident. But then we got up there, and I'll never forget this, and it's such a fun memory. We got up there, and it was me and one of the other guys I was waiting with, and we got up there, and it was like, okay, we're both looking for a medium tie-dye. And they look in the box, they're like, we literally have one. And I remember this kid turning to me, he's like, dude, Eric, what do we do here, man? Like, he was like, what do we do? And I'm like, dude, just, you take it. It's fine. I liked the cream one anyway, so there was a cream-colored sweatshirt I was able to get. But it was so funny. He was like, should we flip a coin for it? And I think, it really, you can't put a price tag for me on those type of memories. And not to say I didn't make memories with the wife later at this convention, but she would not have wanted to wait in line like that for that many hours. But it was fun. It was really, really fun. I was able to get one of each of the merch items, the sweatshirt, long sleeve, and short sleeve, and, met some really cool people online that I connected with, followed them on social. These will be people that we'll reach out to at future conventions, and yeah, it was super fun. But getting back to the main stage aspect of the conference. So everybody thought that Gary was going to come on at 9:20, and in actuality, a fake Gary came on. So one of a pretty famous Gary impersonator that kind of you do the voice perfectly. And then another one came on afterwards, and they were both kind of bantering with each other. It was super funny. And then Gary came on, and it was just, honestly, it's kind of just speaks to who Gary is that he's the kind of guy that wants to have even the people that are imitating him included. It's like, hey, they probably are trying, I don't know necessarily if either of these guys were, but it's like someone could be trying to bring you down, so to speak, with their mocking of you or something. But he makes it fun and brings it on and starts off the convention that way. That was super cool. I was waiting in line for merch when that was happening, but I was still able to view it. I was still able to hear it. And so that kicked off VeeCon. That kicked off the main stage. A few other cool people that we saw speak later, Steve Aoki, famous DJ, and Tom Bilyeu, the Impact Theory host. So he has a podcast, and he's a really cool guy. And the cool thing was, guys, is that these speakers were actually somewhat accessible in the convention. So if you wanted to speak with them or try to get, an autograph or just introduce yourself to them, there were people waiting on the side of the stage after every single event, every single speaker, every single performer to try to meet them or get something signed. So I thought that was cool that was a possibility for people too, if you wanted to wait. A lot of conventions, there are certain aspects where you got to wait for certain things. If you really want to check something out, you got to wait. So in my case, I really wanted merch. So I was going to wait there. I was going to kind of forgo some other parts of the convention to start. But then after that, the subsequent days, it's like, well, don't have to worry about getting that merch anymore. So I think some people approached it like that. So then so the main stage was in the center of US Bank Stadium. That's where Gary was. That's where Steve Aoki and Tom were just speaking. Steve Aoki was actually playing at the Armory, which is a venue in Minneapolis, later that evening. And there was actually some ticket giveaways there. I didn't win one. We weren't necessarily trying to go to that either. We did go to the Armory last December to see Illenium, so I'd highly recommend. The venue is awesome. But yeah, Steve was playing there. So on the main stage, you have those people. And then once the main stage stopped, it would go so the main stage went from 9:20 until like noon. And then they would open up side stages. So throughout US Bank Stadium, there was all these side stages scattered around, little rooms, little clubs where at Viking games, like this would be for, the people that have the really cool tickets where they have this like little suite area with food and drinks. And these were set up where you'd have to pick and choose which one you want to go to because there was several going on at the same time. So there was like 5 or 6 different side stages. And there'd be something going on at each of those for the next, like from noon until 3. And then the main stage would open back up again from 3 until the end of the convention. And so after having waited almost 4 hours for merch, I was kind of looking to just maybe take in a few side stages for the first day. This was that Friday, first full day of the convention. And so the wife and I went and checked out the intersection of sports, business, and technology talk. And so there were 3 people on that panel, all very cool people, all had a lot to say. They were from different, kind of sides of the conversation. Rich Kleiman was from Boardroom TV, Mike Hermelin from DraftKings, and Jasmine Mayetta, she's the founder of Round 21, and she was actually on Shark Tank. So I would look her up if you like this kind of sport NFT combination. I would look her up because I checked that episode out after a friend recommended it to me, and it was really cool. She's got a really cool idea going with that, so I would check that out. So after this side stage, we actually waited around a little bit and just walked up and introduced ourselves to a few of the speakers, which was fun. Handed a couple podcast cards out. Mike Hermelin of DraftKings was super funny, so it was like, hey man, like that, really liked your banter. Just kind of, it was fun to interact with the people, and I really do think that this really describes the entire Web3 space. It's so early that these people are accessible. It's actually quite astonishing. I mean, you could be walking around and talking to someone that could be, the future Mark Zuckerberg of this industry. So, I mean, it's crazy how accessible it is. And at the same time, I think I felt very fortunate to just learn from these people that are experts in the field. And, being there as a novice in a lot of ways to this space, it was cool to learn from people that are making like a full-time income from these things. So it was really fun. I had a lot of fun at that side stage. We actually didn't check out any other side stages and sit in for them, but they were playing on the big screens. Like you could be walking through, some other exhibits in the near the main stage when it was shut down. You could be walking around and they would still have on the big screens in the stadium other side stages playing. So you were still able to kind of hear some of that. So that was fun. But so the wife and I, later that day, we walked around, checked out some other parts of the convention. We went to one exhibit called NFT World. So that one was honestly super fun. There was several booths and several little areas set up from different NFT projects. And they had, some interactive games. They were giving away some free, merch, or they had like an opportunity if you were a holder of their NFT to meet the founder or get a t-shirt. And so I think that was really, it was really inclusive. And I actually did play something called the quarter machine later on. I'll get to that in just a little bit. I was able to play that where you connect your wallet, and it was an interactive game. I did spend some ETH to do that. So that was fun. And also when we were walking around, the team 1:37 p.m., the same team that I met at the massive meetup that gave me the POAP, they were walking around with a camera and a mic and interviewing people, and they came up and asked, hey, would you mind if we interviewed you? It's like, absolutely. I mentioned that I'm a podcast host. I love getting on a mic, love talking about things, and they actually wanted to focus on, oddly enough, the sweatshirt and waiting in the merch line, and that was kind of the focal point, and relayed back to why we were here and what we were hoping to gain out of the conference, and that was really fun. And I actually just reached out to them on Instagram, and they are making a film from VeeCon, so I'm hopeful that I'll see my clip in there, and we'll share that on the social when that happens, hopefully. But that was a cool experience. That was fun to rock the mic with somebody else and really talk about why we were happy to be at VeeCon. But then the happy hour began. So the happy hour was put on by Captain Morgan, so Captain on Ice Night, and Bibigo Korean Food. So they had up on one of the suites in the Viking Stadium, US Bank Stadium, they had just this just crazy spread of all this Korean food, and they had Captain Morgan being served, drinks and different stuff. Both the wife and I were doing 75 hard, so we couldn't partake in the drinking, which we were staying overnight this Friday night, so that was tough, but I still recommend that program. 75 hard's worth it. But so we weren't able to drink, but we did get this Korean food and went out on the Skyway, this little area, kind of this little balcony in the stadium, and looked over the city and ate. And it was so nice, guys. It was really, really fun. Still networked with people there. I was wearing the limited sweatshirt that I had gotten, and so that was cool because, honestly, like I can't explain why, but I just love that limited type merch stuff. So people would say, like, oh man, nice sweatshirt, and like, oh, like how long do you have to wait for that? And that to me, I'm like, it kind of validates like why the heck I would wait that long. It's like, oh, someone said that's cool. That like makes it for me, so to speak. But we actually had some people say that, like, I mean, they were literally selling these sweatshirts that they were $108. They were selling them on eBay for like $2,000. And so, yeah, I probably, maybe I should have sold it. I didn't. It's hanging up in my closet. Hey, you can't put a price on memories, right? So we took in the rest of the night, and as we were walking around, it was getting to be time for the final concert. And it was supposed to be the group TLC, which a lot of you probably are familiar with. The big song Waterfalls is the one that always pops into my mind. And so we were getting ready to watch them, and then Gary came on the stage and said, hey, got some unfortunate news. TLC had to cancel last minute, but we have somebody else here for you. It's a really special guest. It was Wyclef Jean, so kind of an old school rapper. It was so much fun. It was a super cool concert. Really fun way to wrap up the first full day of the convention, and after that, we just kind of packed in, went to our hotel for the night. Now, starting the next day, the good news was didn't have to wait in the merch line, right? Yeah. So we were able to start off with the coffees and convos with Coach, put on by Coach, and they had some breakfast sandwiches, and it was a super relaxing way to start the morning. And for this day, really, I'll just focus on a couple memorable main stage and side stage sessions that we took in. So we were able to sit down and take in Pharrell, musician, spoke. Thought it was a pretty cool, interesting conversation. We also had Seth Green, an actor. He's one of my favorite actors in Family Guy. He plays Chris. He was talking about his new show that's coming up and how he was casting his Bored Ape NFT, which one cool thing about NFTs, a lot of the projects, once you buy the NFT, you own the intellectual property, the IP for it. So he's able to use his ape as the main actor in a cartoon, so to speak, as the bartender of the show. And he got on there and he was talking about how it was kind of funny that they were getting ready to launch the show, and his ape was actually, he was kidnapped, so to speak. He was stolen from his crypto wallet. And scams are very prevalent in the NFT community, so you have to be really careful about where you're connecting your wallet and whatnot. But his was stolen, so he's like, they're ready to launch the show, and our main actor gets kidnapped. And so and since Seth Green has actually recovered that ape, but at the time of the convention he was still trying to retrieve it. So that was a really interesting storyline. He's a very personable guy, and Gary was interviewing him. Then they had a panel of 2021 success stories for NFT projects. So they had people from the World of Women project, Doodles project, Cool Cats project, and it was cool to hear their successes in 2021 because that was just such a boom time for NFTs. We also heard from Mila Kunis and Lisa Sturbikov. So oddly enough, for me as a Family Guy fan, Mila Kunis is another voice actress in that show. She plays Meg. And so that was fun to hear about their Stoner Cats NFT project where they use their NFTs to create a cartoon, which is really cool. So strongly suggest you check that one out if you're into cartoons and NFTs. Also on the main stage was Guy Osiri talking about bringing NFTs to Hollywood. And his personal take was that World of Women, that project, would become the next Bored Ape Yacht Club project. So if you're into the NFT space, you know about the Bored Apes. A lot of famous people have them. So he was thinking World of Women was the project to get on if you're thinking about what's going to be the next big thing. So really great speakers, honestly. That main stage day was really fun. And we did take in one side stage that day as well. So the one that we went to was called When Solana, and WEN. So a lot of the terminology in the NFT space, when is something going to happen? Like they spell it WEN. It's just kind of funny. But so this was all focused on Solana, the cryptocurrency in which most NFTs are based on the Ethereum blockchain. This was talking about ones that were based on the Solana blockchain. And so we had 3 panelists there. One of them was the head of product engineering at Solana. His name was Bartosz Lipinski. And then they had Carl Jones, a creator of the Bubble Goose Ballers NFT project. Pretty cool, kind of an artist to hear from. And then Stephen Hess, who was the CEO of Metaplex. So this one I thought was really interesting that all Solana NFTs are minted on this platform. So, I mean, that to me, I was like, holy crap. Like every NFT that's built on Solana goes through his company. Like that's fantastic. That's quite a market share, right? He did mention one project to look for coming out this summer called Gumdrop. Project to watch for this summer on Sol. So if you're so inclined, you might check that out. And then it was about 2 p.m. and we decided that we were going to go get in line for the GaryVee selfie station that started at 4 o'clock. So Gary had set times and set areas where he was going to be at, where you could get a selfie with him, you can get your things signed in certain areas. And so it was going to start at 4 o'clock. So we figured if we get over there by, 2:30, certainly we'll be in a decent position. And we were, but we still waited for probably close to 4.5 or 5 hours until we fully got up there. And while we were waiting in line, we met a lot of really fun people. Again, everybody in the community was really so nice, and it was really cool to hear their stories about what got them to be at this convention. And it'd be too long of an episode to go through all the details, but really, I'm so thankful for those friendships and connections made just waiting in line for certain things. That was really fun. That was really cool. And so the one unfortunate aspect during this selfie line, when we finally got up to the point where we were just about to get there to get the selfie with Gary, we were informed that he was not going to be signing any more items. So he wasn't going to sign these 2 posters that I brought, and he wasn't going to sign the sweatshirts for these 2 guys behind us. And everybody's like, oh man, like, you wait all this time. Like, I know he's, a busy guy and stuff, but like, we'll try anyway. We'll try it. And so we got up there though, and his crew was just like, no, he's not going to do it right now. Like, we're super sorry. So I wasn't able to get the thing signed then. Honestly, was pretty bummed. It was like, dang, like, you got the selfie, but it'd be cool to get this, picture of my NFT signed and the ticket for VeeCon and whatnot. So I'll get back on that in a second, because I did get those items signed, and that's because Gary and his team are fantastic. But I'll focus on that in just a minute. Just wanted to highlight a few of the main stage people that we missed while we were in line, because the selfie station was just kind of off center from the main stage, so you really couldn't hear. All the audio was being projected towards the center of the stadium. We were off to the side, so we weren't able to hear as much. But Liam Payne, a musician, and Logan Paul, who, YouTuber, and now he's into fighting, they were talking about getting famous really fast. And that was one that I hope there's some clips online to hear about that, because that's a topic I'm sure getting famous really fast is very challenging, and there's a lot of probably negative connotations along with that most of us don't think. We think, oh, wow, if you're famous, like, that's amazing. But I'm sure they have some interesting things to say about that. Chuck Liddell, the Iceman from UFC, was up there talking with a few other sports people, so that would have been a cool one. And then Eva Longoria, an actress, and she was up there with Huda Katan. They were talking about empowering women in Web3. And there are a lot of women-led NFT projects, so that is really, I think women are thriving in this space right now, which is awesome. And then Beeple came on. So if you've read anything about an NFT that sold for $69 million at Christie's auction house, you've heard of Beeple. So he's an artist, he's a digital artist, and he's creating some pretty high-end art NFTs that people are willing to pay a lot of money for. So those are a few of the people that we missed on the main stage when we were waiting. But it was really fun to be in that line, meet those people, get that selfie with Gary. We took in the final concert of the night as well. It was the musician Miguel, and I thought he did a great job, but actually the guy before him did an amazing job too. His name was Fresco Trey. So definitely check out Fresco Trey if you like rap. Both these guys kind of R&B, hip-hop artists. So that was really fun. My wife and I took in the Ferris wheel. We rode that in US Bank Stadium. So just a really fun, super great way to wrap up the second full day of the convention on Saturday. And now we arrived to the final day of VeeCon, which was day 3, Sunday. It was the shortest day of the convention. There was not a final concert. The doors actually opened a little bit later. It was 10 a.m. instead of 8. And so I got there just after 10 a.m., took it a little bit easier, didn't have to get up and wait in line. And so they had this really awesome brunch at the Polaris Club in US Bank Stadium, another one of those kind of swanky pregame clubs that you'd be at if you were a Vikings season ticket holder or if you bought one of those expensive tickets. They were making custom pancakes, they had cold brew coffee, they had a DJ playing. It was super fun, met a couple other really, really nice people and connected with them on the app. And then after brunch, I went and had a VIP signing experience with GaryVee, basically at the selfie station, the one that I was just at the previous day where I could not get my items signed. And so a lot of people that were in that line actually had similar experiences where as it got towards the end of the line, they weren't signing items anymore. And so people reached out on Twitter and just said, hey, like, is there any chance, is he doing another signing, like in addition to this other selfie station the next day? And so I reached out on Twitter as well and was tweeting on the same thread. And Gary responded and said, hey, I've got you all. Please email this person on my team and send a picture of your selfie from the previous day, and we will take care of you tomorrow. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is phenomenal. So I did that, got an email from them, and I saw the email on my drive up on Sunday, so a little bit earlier. And I saw that they were like, hey, just come down here, ask for this woman, and we'll take care of you. And so that was phenomenal. And actually, even before this brunch, backing up just a few steps, on the way in, there was these tables where people would set, business cards and different items like, QR codes to scan. So I set some podcast cards there too. But there was a book, Gary's book, 12 and a half, which a lot of people were trying to get that signed. there was just a copy of that book sitting on one of the tables that someone had obviously left there for someone else to have. So I grabbed it and was like, well, this is cool. I can now get this signed in addition to my 2 posters. And I went down there and asked for the woman that I was supposed to ask for. And she took the stuff and was like, how many, where do you want him to sign it? And how many do you have? And he was doing a selfie station on Sunday as well. So there was a lot of people waiting. And so I just went up there and was able to just get these things signed super quick. And Gary pointed and smiled, towards me. And I was like, this is crazy. And this is awesome that he cares that much about his family, so to speak, the people that support him in the projects that he's doing. And he really is, like I've said in my previous episode, he's a man of the people. And that was really inspirational. I really enjoyed that and thought that was just such a, tied a perfect bow on VeeCon for me. And so after that, I was able to take in some more of the convention, since I didn't have anything else that I really wanted to wait for. So I went back to the NFT World. I played that quarter machine that, like I previously mentioned, where you paid a quarter of an ETH, 0.25 ETH, for a spin to win an NFT. And you would get an NFT no matter what. It's just that there were certain ones in there that were worth more and worth less. And there was actually one in there, part of the Clone X NFT project. So you can Google that if you're curious or search it on OpenSea. But at that time, those were trading for like $27,000. So that would have been a heck of a pull for 0.25 ETH, which at the time, about $500. That would have been crazy. I did win one NFT called Floor is Lava, which was actually one of the Quarter Machine's proprietary NFTs. So that was cool. I mean, I'm still holding it. It's still holding its value pretty well, and they have airdrops that they say they send to people too. So I thought that was another, just further diversifying the collection. And the most memorable main stage and side stages that day. So on the main stage, there was a man named Mark Manson talking about the subtle art of not giving an NFT. And so it was kind of funny, but he had a super cool, topic about how he took quotes of his book and made them into NFTs. So that was really interesting. Then there was a few generative artists, so digital art. They came on, talked about their projects. One of them is actually the creator of Art Blocks, which was the one that created the art for the VeeCon tickets. And then another was Tyler Hobbs, he's the founder and creator of Fidenza, another generative art project. And that floor price of that project is currently 83 Ethereum, so that's pretty high end. But probably the most impressive speaker of the day, the one that everybody was waiting for, was Snoop Dogg. So Snoop Dogg came out there with his son and Nick Adler, and they were talking about how they were basically using, Snoop is another Bored Ape Yacht Club holder. So he was talking about how he was building a brand around his Bored Ape. And so a memorable quote that Snoop had was that creativity has to be fun and it has to make funds. So Snoop Dogg has spoken, guys. That's what you need to do if you want to have something that is going to be sustainable. And so I thought he was super fun to hear from. He did do a little rapping as well, so that was pretty cool too, to hear Snoop Dogg rap in person. And then GaryVee came on there, wrapped it up on the main stage, and he hit us with a huge announcement, in which case the holders of VeeCon tickets would be airdropped a Snoop Dogg collaboration later in the summer or early fall. And so everybody at that moment was like, boom, like that is huge. That's massive news. The floor price on VeeCon tickets held strong. They even rose up quite a bit. So the tickets that we bought, for X amount of dollars were, they multiplied by 5-6 times that value literally within hours. I'm still holding them. I still think there's value in waiting to see what this drop is, because that's one of the benefits of NFTs too, guys, is that once you're a holder in a project, usually things just subsequently become available for you. So they'll get, future drops. If you're a season 1 holder or if you're an OG holder in a project, the Genesis line, you will be able to be the first to get airdropped certain things that come down the line. And they might be free. Like the Bored Ape Yacht Club, that was obviously an investment initially. Someone had to buy it to get it. That was not free. But then the Mutant Apes, the thing that came next, which those still are like super high end and super valuable, those were airdropped for free for a Bored Ape Yacht Club holder. So I think if you can get on something early and you believe in it, go for it. There's no issue with jumping in early and taking a risk every once in a while, right? So guys, that really, honestly, that wraps up my VeeCon experience. I had so much fun at it. It was literally awesome to experience it in my home state at literally the home of the Minnesota Vikings, my favorite team. Like it was too perfect to not attend in person. I'm so happy that I was able to go. I'm so happy that my wife was able to join me. I'm ecstatic for VeeCon 2023. We're not sure where it's going to be yet. Some people think it might be overseas. Some people think it might be in Minneapolis again. So who's to say? All I know is that until I own a VeeFriend Series 1, I will not be guaranteed a ticket, so I'm going to hope the prices are not too bad next year. And everybody, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I really hope that it was interesting. I hope that it was helpful. I hope that it taught you something that you didn't know about Web3 and NFTs, and I hope that you have a lot of questions for me after this. So please reach out to me on social media, at Eric Mueller Show on most every platform. Be sure to leave a review on whichever platform you're listening on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Hitting me up with that 5-star really helps the show grow. It helps it reach new people. Thank you for living vicariously through me on my VeeCon experience. Until next time, Emu out.